Welcome. My name is Tahlia. I use the pronouns they, she, and I'm super excited to be your host for tonight. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we gather and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, recognising their continued connection to these lands and waterways. And I would like to welcome all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We acknowledge our shared responsibility to care for and protect both land and people, and we acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Tonight, I'm joining you from the land of the Darkinjung and Gurungai people, and I invite you to join me by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land from wherever you are in the chat now. I would also like to acknowledge the work of disability advocates that have come before us, knowing that even though there is still work to be done, without their labour, we would not be in the position we are today. We also acknowledge the other organisations and groups doing similar work to us today across the world. We learn from them and believe that the more of us working towards change, the better. So first up, I'm going to run through a few quick instructions to help this event run smoothly and to ensure we all have an enjoyable time. We'd love you to have your video on if you feel comfortable and can do. We found it really adds to that sense of community that Zoom facilitates. If you're on a computer or laptop, you can set your screen to gallery view by clicking the button in the top right-hand side. Today, we encourage everyone to use the chat as much as you would like to connect with each other and share your own reflections. In saying this, whilst we encourage conversation in the chat, we ask that at all times we keep it positive and respectful. Any inappropriate language or behaviour won't be tolerated by any of us. In the event this happens, we would sadly have to remove the chat user from the event to ensure everyone has a respectful experience. Tonight's event is also being recorded so that we can share it with those who weren't able to join us live. If you are having any technical issues at all, please message our tech support people in the chat, Amelia and Catalina, and they will help you to resolve any issues. We also have Declan, one of our fellow CPACtive champions, guiding us in the chat tonight. Today's event has closed captioning. However, if you have any further access needs, we would like to do our best to meet them. So please just send a private message to anyone in the tech crew. Before we go any further, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge and thank some of the special faces in the room with us tonight. Tonight, we are joined by the New South Wales Minister for Disability Inclusion and Member for Port Stephens, Kate Washington, the Member for Gosford, Liesl Tesh, Independent Member for Wakehurst, Michael Regan, and I know that we are also being joined tonight by the staff from the Federal Minister for Disabilities Office, Bill Shorten. I really hope that I haven't missed anyone, so I would like to just give a massive thank you to all of our political representatives for your support of the campaign and for joining us here tonight. Now, I'd like for us all to take a moment to scan the QR code that will be coming up on screen. And once that's up, you'll be able to click the little heart so then we can all see that you are there. If you have any issues with the QR code, there is also that link that I believe will be also added to the chat where you'll be able to enter that code. Awesome. You're starting to see a few of the little hearts pop up. So now we have an icebreaker question for everyone. We want to know if you've been involved in the Blaze the Trail campaign so far. It doesn't matter if this is your first time coming to an event or if you've come to an event before. You can choose more than one answer as well. We're going to be talking about our journey here, but we also want to know who's been here from the start. So all answers are anonymous and there'll be absolutely no judgment. And it's really awesome to see some of those answers popping up on screen already. Looks like we've got a really big mix of people who have been a part of this campaign for a while, in one way or another, and also people who are just joining us now. So thank you to everyone. It's really exciting to have some new faces joining us today. So if this is your first event or one of many, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being involved. So now let's get into it. Tonight's event will begin with a quick reflection on this campaign and the journey that has been undertaken by some of our CP champions. And then in the second half of the event, we'll move into getting your input into what the rest of the campaign might look like. So to start, I want to take you back to the very beginning, before we even imagined the Blaze the Trail campaign. This was what was called the Youth Labs. These Youth Labs were online events about young people with cerebral palsy coming together as a community, developing our confidence and developing new networking skills. We would spend these meetings talking about our experiences, some good and many bad, in the education and employment systems. And we also spoke about what we would change if we had a magic wand. And some of the ideas that came out of these youth labs were just incredible. Things like using virtual reality to assess students without writing or typing, or using a universal artificial intelligence algorithm that would consider a student's whole learning history, physical access needs, even past success with different supports to highlight possible best supports for each unique individual. But at the end of the day, the truth was that as these conversations progressed, we realized that majority of our ideas were simply to have fair and inclusive systems that allow us our right of access to education and employment. And from there, the conversations on policy and law really came naturally. So that's how the idea to create a campaign for inclusive education and employment in New South Wales was created by a group of then strangers with shared anger and passion to create change, not just for us, but for those who come after us too. And if this is what we could create in just a few months for New South Wales, if we can keep working, we would love to see how far we can take this plan. So now it's time to look ahead and see what could be next. So let's hear from the champions, starting with Sophie. Sophie, a CPACtive champion who has a degree in inclusive education and has been involved in the Blaze the Trail campaign since the very start. Sophie, can you tell us a bit about the process of launching the Blaze the Trail campaign?
Thanks, Tahlia. Hi, everyone. So the Blaze the Trail campaign was launched in Barangaroo in November 2022. This was an opportunity to announce our 3 key asks. They are as follows. 1, clear, consistent and enforceable guidelines for support around assessments at school and university for students living with disability. 2. Pathways for people living with disability to enter the teaching workforce. 3. A statewide initiative supporting the development of pathways for students living with disability into large government departments and community organizations. With the likes of Kate Washington there, listening to why these asks are important to us as a CPACtive cohort, it meant that we were able to share our lived experience with those that could influence change from a government level. This means that the voices of those with cerebral palsy were finally being heard, and therefore we could continue to work together with government to create change. From
That was
level for people with disability.
Yeah, that was just, it's so true, Sophie. It was awesome to finally feel like we were being heard. And I think that we were all really impressed that we had the then shadow minister and now Minister for Disability Inclusion actually come to our event and hear us out. It felt like a pretty big deal. So what do you think that meant to us and to you especially, to have politicians listening to us from day one?
For me, but also for us as a CP cohort, it meant a lot because statistically, when we talk about disability, we were able to provide real life examples about how the current system has affected us in the past. It meant that our often silent voices were finally being heard, and we were able to go straight to the top. In that we could go to the people in government that could affect change. I think it is also important that people with disability have actually had something to say rather than just being spoken about, and that the people who have lived experience are the people that are being listened to.
Yes, I agree that lived experience is the most important and useful tool in developing these plans. So thank you.
Sorry, Tahlia, I'd just like to add on to there that I think that it's also the responsibility of government to listen to people with disabilities. And I really hope that we were able to reinforce that through our campaign.
100%. And thank you so much for jumping in to add that, because I don't think I could have put it better myself. That is 100% it. So thank you so much for sharing with us, Sophie. And now I would like to turn to Nicholas, who has been one of our most active lobbyists and campaigners. He has wrangled politicians from across the political spectrum to engage with our campaign. So Nicholas, can you please tell us how you did it?
Yeah, so during the lead up to the election day, I was heavily involved in the Labour Trail campaign by contacting the Raynaud candidate and putting together a contact list. Contacting candidates in the Raynaud way included email and messaging through Facebook to let the local candidate, in particular, like Wakefield and Davidson, to know about the Labour Trail campaign. This led us to get our campaign to reach other people within the local community as the candidate was sharing their campaign onto their social media account. On multiple days, we managed to talk to a range of candidates and newly elected MP within the Northern Beaches and North Shore region. They include Matt Koch, the new Liberal MP for Davidson, Toby William, the Liberal candidate for Waker, Susan Jordan, the Animal Justice Party's candidate for Waker, and Michael Reedon, the new independent MP for Waker, who we are grateful for also joining tonight. Hi, Michael. I also took on the challenge of creating a spreadsheet with the contact detail of almost every single candidate from every single state in New South Wales. This took roughly 4 hours a day over 4 days. This spreadsheet became a great asset for the CPACtive team, plus the broader CPA community. So everyone were able to find their local candidate contact details and share their position for Believer Trail. On top of all the face-to-face campaigning work I did, I apparently share all the work from the CPACtive team on all my social media accounts, as some of you may have seen through my Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I was so passionate to share the campaign, I even sent direct messages to every single person in my contact list on Instagram and Facebook. Just as a side note, I did get a temporary block from Facebook as they thought I was a bot.
Thank you so much for sharing, Nicholas. I know that it was incredible looking at that spreadsheet that had been developed. I just know that you put so much time and effort into that. And it honestly still makes me chuckle that you got that block from Facebook. You were just so proactive that even Facebook didn't know how a person could be capable of sharing as much as you did. So that leads to my next question for you, because you use social media really effectively in the lead up to the New South Wales state election. So what were some of your highlights? We know that you got the attention of a lot of political leaders, but was there anyone in particular who engaged with the campaign that was unexpected?
Yeah, so I also knew Twitter and tagged in a number of high-end celebrities. So I did the attention of the original Yellow Widow Drake Pay and Tim Dimblett, which I believe his brother is involved with DPA in Victoria. And then I also sent messages through some celebrities on Instagram, so I got the attention of Sean Keppie, which is the man who will win the Idol player.
That is seriously pretty cool. And I think that it's safe to say that this campaign has reached people far and wide that we could have never anticipated. And I think that this all segues perfectly into our last champion speaker, Eric, who is going to tell us all about that win. So Eric, over to you.
Thanks, Tahlia. Going to recruitment and Democrat on the day that the Labour government committed to our campaign up was an amazing experience. The changing government and the very groups and our premier have meant that the commitment to more inclusive school to work part-time is closer than ever. It means that people having the ability have the chance to work with government to fix the system and show what we are capable of. People with a disability need to be part of the bigger discussion towards real change. We need platform action and change of society's attitudes towards inclusion. People with a disability have a lot to offer, and it is time for the world to recognize that. I look forward, I look forward to more opportunities with the state and federal governments to, to discuss positive ways of moving forward. It is about making progress in relation to disability access and employment in New South Wales and CPACtive is ready to get involved.
Thank you so much, Eric. I 100% agree again with everything that you have shared. It really is time for real change. And I agree that as a group, the CPACtive, along with the wider disability community, we're ready to be there to be leading the decisions being made in government. So thank you so much for that. But now let's talk about that press conference where we got to stand alongside the likes of the now New South Wales Premier, the now New South Wales Minister for Disability Inclusion, and the member for Gosford. It was pretty wild. Can you tell us a bit about what that was all like?
So it was amazing. And also have the opportunity again to do that and get more opportunities to get the word out there. There have got to be more events that we as CPACtive should be able to go on to until the next story of our life experience.
Yes, and I think that all of our CPACtive members will all love to be there the next time, and we would all love more opportunities to be able to get the word out there. So thank you so much, Eric. So now, speaking about ministers, we are lucky enough to be joined tonight by the New South Wales Minister for Disability Inclusion. But it's not the first time we've had Minister Kate Washington come and show her support for our campaign. The government has committed to delivering on our key election asks to make the pathways from school to work more inclusive for people with disabilities. And as champions, we can't wait to work with the new government on bringing these ideas to life. So, Kate Washington, can I throw to you to tell us a bit about what it was like witnessing the campaign unfold and how we might be able to work with you on bringing our campaign asks to life? And would also love to hear from the member for Gosford and parasport champion Liesl Tesh on your answer to these questions too, because we know that you have also been such a massive supporter of this campaign.
Thanks, Tahlia, and thanks everyone. Liesl and I are so excited to be joining you tonight. Honestly, I love catching up with the CPA crew. You're full of energy, ideas, enthusiasm, and it's just, yeah, you're always so impressive. Now, Liesl and Liesl is now the Parliamentary Secretary for Disability Inclusion, so we get to work hand in hand. Hand in hand together to deliver on the commitments that we made. But let's go back, as you have, back to Barangaroo when you launched your campaign. I know Liesl wanted to be there, couldn't make that one, but being in the room when you launched your campaign, I was the shadow minister then. We may not have been, going into government, but we were trying. And your stories and of your lived experience and the importance of the asks that you were making were impressed on me so much that I left, and I couldn't stop thinking about how we might be able to work those into a policy going forward into the election. So to be able to have had your input into making our election policy better was awesome. And I'm so grateful to CPA for that. And then going forward, we make the commitments, and because they're so important. And then we get into government, which is even better. That's when it gets really exciting. Because and then become minister, parliamentary secretary, responsible for delivering on those commitments, some of which are the asks of your group that came from those really first conversations that you were all having. So this is democracy in action, folks. It is awesome. And we want to make sure that your voices and input continue as we go forward to implementing our commitments and policies. So the connection that we've got, that's going to continue, I hope, so that we want to put into place a process where you have your voices as part of the process going forward when we are going to deliver. So over to you, Liesl.
Absolutely, and I apologise for not being there on that first launch, but it was amazing to be joined by so many of you as a wheelchair user as well in this role, to have so many people with disabilities there beside us at the launch with Chris Minns and Dylan Alcott was just like, absolutely bring it on. And also, I think with lived experience, I just know, and also in the background, I was a high school teacher before I became a member of parliament. So just in the background on the journey of social change, I was there as a teacher knowing that we have to do better. And I was there, like I came back from living overseas. I couldn't teach in every high school across the coast. It's frustrating. And I always want to make the most of kids with opportunities in the schools that I've taught at be there. But the other passion that I'm about, and I've seen it under the Liberal government, that the number of people with disabilities in employment in the public sector in New South Wales is halved. So Kate and I, on International Day of People with Disabilities, would always have a little bit of fun in the parliament, having a go in opposition, which is what you have to do, be the voice of what we should have and sort of make a mockery of the government's failures, was so exciting. So education and employment are like the two top ones for me as well. Hiding in the background, I mean, housing is so important as well. Absolutely, health and inclusion in the health sector for people with disabilities is important. If we get tourism right and make tourism inclusion in New South Wales, we just make all of our lives better. So there's so many aspects, but those two key in teaching, education, being a role model, but creating the space to get good quality education for people with disabilities, but then pathways to be role models, not only as teachers, but also in the administration part of the whole education system. But whatever shape that is, it's moving into employment and making employment as inclusive and accessible as you possibly can. So let's go on this journey together. It's not going to be an easy journey, but definitely it's a journey that we want to share with you. We've got till 2027 at this stage, and who knows, maybe that another time after that. But in New South Wales, we get 4 years in the Parliament. I was like you guys as a youngster growing up. I was a person with disability who saw the world that used to be better. I put up my hand and became a member of the Labor Party. I never imagined being a member of Parliament. And then 6 years later, we're in government. And then I'm working with the amazing Kate Washington, who's been the Shadow Minister. And now we're working together as Parliamentary Secretary. It's just such an exciting time. And I just believe this is about possibility, and it's about putting a dream on the table and wheeling beside each other or walking badly beside each other, whatever that looks like, so we can do it. And I know I've got personal friendships. Tahlia, as a youngster, got an award up there on the beautiful Central Coast. I know Eric, who's been lobbying for employment on the coast for some time. So really looking forward to working beside CPACtive to campaign for a better, more inclusive New South Wales for all.
And can I'll just say, I forced to be reckoned with right here. The Blaze the Trail campaign blazed a trail. You did so well. Your asks were on point. They were simple. They were effective, and they were important. And so that was what really cut through with me and with the Premier, the now Premier, because he approved all the policies we took to the election. So they went right to the top, and now we're keen to work with you all. So, and I'll just add that Lisa and I are together because we're sitting in Parliament House tonight, because Parliament's still sitting. We're watching it on the screen, and we will have to go in a moment. But it's just awesome to catch up. But the conversation is going to continue.
I would just like to say a massive thank you to both of you, to both Kate Washington and to Lisa Tesh, for both joining us from Parliament. It really has been incredible to have both of you along this journey with us. It is exciting to look forward to the future, and I can't wait to see what can be done in New South Wales to improve accessibility. I believe that we've got a bit of a dream team now, by the sounds of it, working on it. I've seen that pop up in the comments in the chat a few times. So just a massive thank you for having our backs, and we're really, really excited for what's going to happen in the months and years ahead. We really can't thank you enough for being a part of all of our events, and for New South Wales Labor committing to our campaign ask.
Well, we'll sign now out, but just want to say thank you to you, Tahlia, and to the entire crew, because your input has been invaluable, and yeah, we'll be in touch about next steps for implementing policy and your asks as well.
Thank you both for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Always a pleasure.
Keep up the great work.
keep having your voices heard.
Thank you. Now, we have such a diverse group of people on here tonight, and we now want to take a moment to really get an understanding of who is in the room with us and what is important to you. So what we're going to do now is jump back into that digital survey tool that we were using before. So the link should be now back in the chat in case that you've lost the code. And I'll give you guys a second to all jump on there. But in the meantime, I'll just be kind of speaking out what you'll all be seeing on the screen. So we have a question there that we want to get you guys to all have a think about as we turn to looking at the future of what is next in the campaign and where do we take it. So the question is, what more do you want to see from the CPACtive? Maybe it's more events, more petitions or emails, or maybe you want more opportunities for leadership and input. So this is open-ended, and we're going to give you a bit of time to think about your answers, and this is a safe space for you to share whatever comes to mind. We're going to leave that question open and come back a little later in the evening to see what you had to say. So now it is time to hear from our second panel. This is our panel of guest speakers. Firstly, introducing Hannah Divney. Hannah is a well-known disability advocate, writer, and the editor-in-chief at Missing Perspectives Media House. Hannah's advocacy for the disability community has been seen and heard across multiple platforms globally. So welcome, Hannah.
Hi, Tahlia. Thanks for having me. That was quite the intro.
Well, you definitely deserve it. And I know I'm so excited to have you here with us tonight.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
It's really awesome because we know that you're one of Australia's leading disability advocates, and you know all about how to get a win on a campaign. So our questions for you tonight.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you've learned from your advocacy, and what do you see as one of the biggest opportunities for this campaign going forward?
Goodness gracious, that's a heck of a question. Thanks for giving me that to think about. I think for me, the things I have learned about advocacy is that it's a long game. It's definitely not something you do to get instant gratification or to see instant success. Progress is small, but from little things, big things grow. And if we can keep pushing the boulder up the hill, then hopefully we'll get to the top eventually. Now, I'm really excited that something like CPACtive exists because when I was a teenager and young person who probably needed this most, it didn't exist. So I'm excited that the next generation of youth with cerebral palsy has this place to go. I think similarly to Nicholas, I have found social media to be really helpful, obviously because for me, as a wheelchair user, it's a lot more accessible than the outside world at large. And I think it's definitely been my friend. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the petition I have out to Disney that I've had out for a couple of years, or like the absolute chaos that happened when I called out Lizzo and Beyonce for ableist lyrics, that kind of thing. That was all through social media, which is just shows you the power. But I think, yeah, pace yourself, celebrate the small victories, surround yourself with people who are going to support you, whether that's other people going through your experience with lived experience or with people who are willing to be allies, because if you're lucky enough to have people in your life who are willing to be allies, don't turn them away. And I think one of the things I'm most intrigued about with this campaign is to see how it improves the visibility of disabled people at large here in Australia and hopefully someday more broadly across the world. I think the thing that we need most, and I saw someone say this or something similar in the chat earlier, is that we need people with disabilities to be more visible. And it's not just visible in these disability specific spaces, although it's great to gather so many people with lived experience and with an investment in the sector, but we also need people who are visible just in everyday life. Basically, wherever there are people making decisions or living their lives, people with disabilities need to be there too. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir on that one because everyone here knows that and desperately wants that to be their experience. But I think we've just got to remember that that's the goal, and that although it is super helpful to gather disability-specific communities because we all need that support and to lean on each other, the ultimate goal is to make it so that people with disabilities aren't as invisible as they have been, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing, Hannah.
That's okay.
I know that I 100% agree that it is beyond time for people with disabilities to be heard. We've deserved that seat at the table for a really long time.
Yeah, we have.
And I know even myself, being part of this campaign, it's been really exciting meeting so many other young people who all share that passion and all agree that that's what is deserved. And I know that it's really exciting to hear from some of those ministers that they're willing to listen, and that they're more than just willing, they're beyond ready to, and they're excited to get behind us.
It's definitely a refreshing change, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
To have people who are actually willing to listen in positions of power. It's a shame that's such a novelty.
Yeah. I wish that was the everyday occurrence, but
yes.
I can dream
if all
that
politicians were like Kate Washington and Liesl Tesh, we would be in a much better place than we are right now. But start small, dream big.
Yes.
And also, before I go and stop hogging the mic, I did just want to say, Tahlia, you are doing a wonderful job hosting tonight. And I know that it's probably an experience that you might have been a little bit nervous about. So I just wanted you to know that you're doing a great job.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Hannah. And yeah, it does mean a lot, but thank you so much. And we've really, really appreciated having you here. And now next up, we have Andrew Buchanan. He has been working in the disability sector for decades and is on the board of the Cerebral Palsy Alliance. So now I'd like to welcome Andrew.
Tahlia, you're very kind, and I'd like to support Hannah's comment that you're doing a fabulous job. I mean, I'm a geriatric has-been broadcaster, but you should be a broadcaster.
Thank you. And it really means a lot to us to have you here, and we're excited to get a bit of insight from you. So now our question for you tonight is, as someone who has seen so many different campaigns and movements in this sector, what has stood out to you about this campaign, and what do you think are the possibilities for the future of Blaze the Trail?
Well, for me, what stood out very clearly was the fact that you're all young, you're articulate, highly intelligent, you're driven. I mean, as the minister said, Kate Washington, you have energy, enthusiasm, and I think you actually speak from grassroots. I mean, you're talking from your own experience with lived disability, and there can be nothing more powerful than talking to an audience or talking to government, if indeed you have had lived experience. I mean, in my early days dealing with disability and looking at the whole advocacy world, there were always people with great respect who were physically abled, who would always talk to audiences about the problems or the difficulties of being disabled. And yet, in many ways, with great respect, they would really have no idea. I mean, I think it's one of those things that if you have a disability, you have to have walked in those shoes or spun those wheels so that you fully appreciate what's really involved. So what stood out for me particularly, and I explained this at a board meeting at CPA after the KPMG function at Darling Harbour, was the amazing energy that you all provided. And there was no victim mentality. You know, you were doing it in a very practical way, outlining the cause, talking about the restrictions that were there in education. And I think one of the big things, Tahlia, is for all of us is the ability to listen. And in a way, very few of us actually listen. And without trying to be political, I think the whole area of disability and advocacy should be bipartisan. And I'm glad in many ways that Kate Washington is one who does listen, does get it, because very few people in the community actually do understand and realize at a realistic level what does happen. It's very easy for us to judge in a community what should happen. It's very easy for us to predict what, in fact, a person with disability may like. But I think the only way of finding out is to listen, to interpret, and to ask those who are involved at a grassroots level how they feel. I mean, it's encouraging in many ways that now we do have that bipartisan approach toward NDIS as an example, and it's great that staffers from Bill Shorten's office are on this. When I chaired the Disability Council of New South Wales, I first met Bill Shorten when he was Parliamentary Secretary for Disability, and I think he has really adopted NDIS, taken it under his wing, and if anyone can make a success of it, Bill will. And I think with our encouragement as an organisation, we should be doing that. And I think from your point of view in CPACtive, there are many in the broader CPA organisation who are fully supportive. I mean, on this call as an example, I can see the charming faces of Catherine Dent, Jackie Wisemantel, who are fellow board members, Sally Lone, who's one of our governors for CPA, Donna Murphy, who works closely with Rob White, our CEO. So I think it's very encouraging that you've got lots of support, and we're here to support in any way. We're here to listen. And Tahlia, I promise we won't judge, but we want to hang on to your apron strings as an organisation of CPACtive, and also relish in the success that you will have down the track. Bronya Metherell and Tegan Butchers are to be congratulated for executing this task, and we applaud you and wish you well.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Andrew. And I will join in on that. Thank you to people like Tegan and Bronya for facilitating the beginning of this, and then allowing this to become such a beautiful co-designed and disability-led campaign. And I also agree that the energy that is found within the whole group of the CPACtive is something really beautiful, and it's something that I know helps keep myself driven on days when advocacy may seem a little harder than it felt the day before. So thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us and sharing tonight. So now I will move on to our final guest speaker. And this is Jackie Wisemantel, who is the parent of the amazing Lara, who is 15 years old with cerebral palsy. Jackie represents the parents of the next generation of young people with CP, and we are so pleased that she could join us here tonight to be part of this conversation. So welcome to you, Jackie.
Oh, thank you so much, Tahlia. It's been fantastic to be here, and thanks for inviting me to speak tonight.
It's really awesome to have you here. So our question for you is, what has it been like as a parent watching this campaign unfold? And what are some of the ways that you think that parents can become part of this movement?
Oh, yes, it's actually been, I think it's quite hard for me to put into words, to be honest. When we first joined the first event some months ago, I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I've just been absolutely blown away. It makes me quite emotional, to be honest, that Lara, who's 15, and she sends her apologies, she had training tonight, that she now, through this group and through all of you amazing young people, now potentially has a platform if she chooses to have her voice and to be part of advocating for herself. I've led her advocacy for the last 15 years, and she's obviously getting to an age now, she's in year 10, where she wants to start advocating for herself. And watching this journey and how you guys have held yourselves and spoken and worked together with government, with each other, within CPA and other organisations has truly been way beyond my expectations. And I'm just so pleased that Lara and other young people with CP and other disabilities will now, through you guys, have a platform in the future to work together, to learn from each other, and to activate change. You know, Lara's at that age, she's in year 10, and they're starting to talk about career choices, and there is absolutely no visibility around disability in any of the conversations she's had with teachers, careers advisors, the information that she's been given from universities, etc. So I think it's such a relevant topic and such a simple ask amongst everything that you're doing, that that should just be a given in this day and age, that, you know, people with disabilities are included in that conversation about what does that pathway look like them to, you know, have a job, to study, to have a future. So I applaud all of you. Yeah, from the bottom of my heart, I'm, you know, absolutely on board 100%. And, you know, I hope that I can help promote this to other parents, to encourage their children to join in these events, to join in with you guys. And obviously, I'm just sharing as much as I can through my networks and contacts to grow the network and spread the word and spread the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jackie. I know Hannah spoke earlier about the importance of allies, and I think this is a prime example of someone who has been an incredible ally, and I'm sure will continue to be. And I am glad that we as a CPACtive group can be there for Lara. I know 15-year-old me would have loved to have had a group like this to join, to meet other people and to try and change the world. So thank you for helping Lara out with joining us, and also just along her journey so far. And I can't wait to see what she can achieve, and I can't wait to see her more in the CPACtive in the near future. So thank you so much.
Oh, no worries. Thank you to you guys, all of the crew there, for making this platform possible for all young people with CP. So Lara will definitely be along for the next one, and all the future ones, as will I. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you. So everyone, we are almost at the end of our event for tonight, and our time is very quickly slipping away from us. So I think that it's time that we quickly jump back into those civility questions so we can find out what everyone had to say. So while the tech team are bringing that up on screen, we have Declan here, who has been our Minister of the Chat this evening. So I'd love to ask you, Declan, to come off mute now and help me unpack of some of what is coming up on screen now.
Look, I really like the idea of getting real change to HSC and university provision. I think that particularly now that a lot of our CPACtive members are going through university, or they're finishing high school, or they've just finished university, and you know, they've had quite a hard time getting through university with all the institutional and bureaucratic challenges. So I'd like to see more, you know, more improvements in that area. I think that's a really great comment. yeah, obviously more opportunities to contribute and be involved in campaigns, and just maybe have it so a part of the campaign could incorporate some more social opportunities as well. You know, just so, because there's so many people in the room tonight, and it's great to have them all here. And I think, you know, it'd be really great to kind of get to know one another down the track on a more personal level. Yeah, I think more TV appearances is great too. I think we definitely need more of that. I mean, I know Hannah Gavani's been doing most of the work in this state, but we definitely need a bit more diversity of people with disability in television. So I'd love to see that. And I think more regional campaign groups. I really like that idea, because people who live in regional New South Wales often get excluded from a lot of the activities that not only CPA, but, you know, a lot of disability organisations and just government organisations in general, they don't really get that the opportunity to have a say in what concerns them, because a lot of people who live in regional areas, their needs might be different. So, you know, I'd like to hear more from them. And also, you know, people who are of First Nations as well. I'd like to, you know, hear a bit more from them. That would be great. And just to get their experiences on how they live with a disability, and is that different from how we live. I think that's a really great idea. And just having more networking events, particularly for people who are struggling to find jobs or are looking to get into the workforce, whether that's paid work or voluntary or anything in between. It'd be great to have some more events like that. Maybe, you know, get some key employers or potential employers, or, you know, businesses involved, corporate sponsors, that sort of thing. That'd be really good. So I think, and Youth Summit, I really like that one, because, you know, the end one, because the government has done a lot of summits lately, particularly the big one last year, which was the employment summit. So it'll be really good to keep that summit momentum going, and having that conversation continue on employment, because we can't let we can't let that, you know, die. So yeah, I think all of the comments are great, to be honest.
Thank you so much, Declan, for jumping off mute to be able to share some of the incredible ideas that have been popping up. And I'm sure they're just going to keep coming as the night goes on, even after this meeting ends. So thank you to everyone for sharing. And I do agree that I know that it has been really special how the CPACtive has already allowed me to make so many new friends. So socializing would be great, and it would be really great to be able to use it to better uplift multi-marginalized voices. So now I am aware that we have just gone over 7. So if you do need to jump off, we totally understand. And I will say thank you so much for joining us tonight. But if you are available to stay online for just a little bit longer, we have one last question that we would love to ask you. And this one should be a pretty quick one to answer. So we want to keep growing this movement, but we can't do it without everyone being a part of it. So we want to know, what are some of the ways that you might be able to help us grow the campaign? It might be inviting friends and family to join, showing up to events, signing petitions. Maybe you want to become a CPACtive champion or a youth leader yourself, or maybe you want to be like Nicholas and Hannah and share some of this content to your social media networks. So in this poll, you'll be able to select more than one option, and make sure to remember to hit the submit button when you're done. So it is so awesome to see so many answers already popping up on the screen. So thank you to everyone who has answered, and it looks like we have lots of really keen people in the room with us tonight. So also, if you have any other ideas to support the campaign, feel free to email us on info@cpactive.org.au, or simply reply to the email that we'll send you tonight, which will have easy links for all the ways that you can support this campaign. Now, this does bring us to the end of the formalities for tonight. I would like to say a massive thank you for every single person for joining us tonight. We really, truly appreciate you coming along on this journey with us. And we're going to take all of your feedback that you have left through the civility link in the chat, or through the emails, or even if you just want to reach out to any of us, if maybe you're some of our friends or family. And we'd love to use any of that info to continue blazing the trail and making change. So we cannot wait to go on this journey with you. Thank you, and good night to everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.